So, Sun Tzu, The Art of War. You've probably all heard of this book. You're aware that it's a old historic book that shares wisdom about war strategies. But it isn't about violence. It's not about ancient battlefields in some respects. Obviously, it does have war strategies, but actually, the philosophy of the book is more about how to win, and it's something that you can attribute to your own life. Sun Tzu didn't just teach us how to win wars, he taught us how to outthink, outmaneuver, outlast competition, whether it's in business, in relationships, in personal growth, or even just everyday challenges. So we'll look at 8 of the most powerful lessons. The first is know yourself and know your enemy. If you know the enemy and know yourself, you need not fear the result of 100 battles. Do you understand when you look in the mirror? Do you understand your strengths, your weaknesses, your behavior patterns? If you don't, how can you ever make the most of what attributes you have if you can't identify them? And on the flip side, imagine playing chess with someone and you didn't know they were a grandmaster. You've already lost because you didn't know yourself and you didn't know your enemy. So in business, you need to study your competitors, know where they excel and where they fail. Let's bring this back to war strategy for a minute. If you don't know how your enemy fights, what terrain they like and dislike, what weapons they have offensively, and what weapons they have defensively, the number of warriors. If you don't know all of that, how can you go into battle with a winning strategy? Look, you might win, fair enough. But if you know certain things, it's easier to target people's weaknesses and focus on your strengths. What about in self-improvement then? If you don't know what's holding you back and what your tendencies are that's caused you to do that, whether it's immediate gratification or something else, you're going to keep making the same mistakes. Maybe you keep getting manipulated. You've not worked out the reason why yet. You need to know yourself and also know others. Are they manipulators or not? So you need to be self-aware, but also externally aware of who you're up against. So another of Sun Tzu's key concepts. Number 2, all warfare is based on deception. Appear weak when you are strong, and strong when you are weak. Sun Tzu's generals used to spread false information. They used to pretend to be weak to lure the enemy in, and then strike hard. Think of a magician for a second. He makes you focus on one hand while the trick happens in the other. It's strategy, it's deception, not dishonesty, it's just deception. In business, maybe you should never reveal your strategy too soon. You see this in business in your career. A lot of the time, they say certain things like, "Oh, we're going to float on the stock exchange. Yeah, you're going to get promoted," but actually, that's never going to happen. But that deception keeps you where you are in a position that they are comfortable with. What about in sports? Fighters using feints and mind games before actually throwing a punch. They are deceiving their opponent. Don't let people underestimate you either until it's too late. So move strategically. The best moves are the ones they never see coming. And there's a phrase about that, isn't there? About a punch. The punch that knocks you out is the one that you never see coming. You need to be able to deceive in a good way. Number three is be like water. Adaptability is strength. Water shapes its course according to the ground over which it flows. Water can take shape of a bottle. It can take the shape of anything. A room, if you fill up a room with water, it will become the shape of the room. When we are rigid, we can turn to failure. A general who refuses to adapt is already defeated. Think about when a river hits a mountain. Does it stop? It flows around the mountain. That's adaptability. Think about in real life. If you don't adapt, let's say in business, people like Blockbuster dies, but that allowed for Netflix to thrive. I remember Woolworths and HMV. They both died out because they weren't adaptable to the ever-changing landscape, i.e., the mountains, the valleys, etc. What we have to understand is that change is inevitable. The strongest survive, survival of the fittest, and we must adapt, being like water. When we are flexible in relationships and things like that, and to plans, we can actually get things done. If we are too rigid when something's changed, what we can find is that we will fail. So flow with challenges instead of fighting against them. Adapt or get left behind. Number four, when your enemy retreats, follow. If an enemy's falling back, press the advantage. But if they're cornered with no escape, they're going to fight back harder, aren't they? You can land a punch in a boxing match. Your opponent stumbles. What do? You attack, don't you? But if they're trapped in a corner, they might swing wildly out of desperation and catch you. So where patience is key, you have to know when to strike and how to strike. So when business in business, for example, when competition is weak, can we capitalise on their struggles? In personal growth, when you're making progress, keep going. You're progressing. When you're in conflict and things like that, give people an escape route. Otherwise, they'll fight back harder. When you have the upper hand, don't slow down. You need to take advantage of it. When you notice people showing weakness, you need to show strength. Momentum is the key. Number five is win before the battle begins. Preparation is everything. Victorious warriors win first and then go to war. Sun Tzu said battles are won before they even start through strategy, planning, and positioning. You've already played out on the board, let's say, the overall strategy, and you can see that the only way that it can end is through success. Two fighters step into the ring. One trains strategically, studies his opponent, and develops a game plan. The other one just hopes for the best. The majority of the time, who wins? The best negotiations are won before you even step in the room. The best bodies are built from a structured plan, not random workouts. Walking into situations unprepared is a guaranteed loss, whether it's an interview, whether it's a client meeting. we need to be prepared. Success isn't luck, it's strategy. Number six is use fire to attack, exploiting chaos. If the enemy is in disorder, strike immediately. Sun Tzu advised attacking when the enemy is distracted, disorganized, or weakened by internal conflict. So what happens with, civil wars, for example, it could be an easy way to take a country because they're fighting each other. Imagine a rival company struggling with bad press, leadership issues, financial trouble. That's when competitors strike. They take customers, they launch a new product, or they headhunt their best employees. So, can you take advantage of weak market conditions? Can you acquire, expand, or innovate? When your opponent is mentally shaken, can you go harder? If someone is distracted, they lose force, they lose concentration. Remember, when an enemy is burning, pour gasoline, not water. Number seven, the penultimate one, is let your plans be dark as night. Essentially, it's saying move in silence. Let your plans be dark and impenetrable as night. And when you move, fall like a thunderbolt. Keep your strategies hidden until the moment of execution. The more people that know about it, the more people that can influence it and actually stop it from happening. Think about a sniper. He doesn't announce his position. He's quiet. He's out of sight. He's as dark as night. He waits. He aims and he strikes with position. He falls like a thunderbolt. Keep your ideas secret until they're fully developed in business. If you're premature ejaculating, essentially, where you're telling everyone about this great new idea, you've not even got a patent for it or anything. It's not even to market, in the prototypes. What can happen if someone can copy it? That's a silly move. It's not strategic. Don't share every move you're making in your personal life either. People don't give a shit a lot of the time, and they'll gossip about you and whatever else. So let success be the announcement. Okay, don't tell everyone I've started a new business. They see it in the local newspaper or whatever online that you've got a multi-million pound business. In competition, remember, surprise is one of the greatest weapons. And if you announce everything, you are telegraphing what your next move is. People can devise a strategy and implement that. Remember, silence is power and strike when the time is right. And finally, number eight is control the terrain, shape the battlefield. Bring them into your world. Different martial arts, for example, when they fight each other, the rule set means that they're better at certain things, and they would prefer to fight in their own domain because they know they are more likely to win. The clever combatant imposes his will on the enemy but does not allow the enemy's will to be imposed on him. The army that controls the battlefield controls the war. Pick a time, place, and the conditions that maximize your advantage. If you're good in the snow, fight in the fucking snow. If you're good in the desert, fight in the desert. If you're good through the trees, fight in the trees. Think about a tennis player. If they had to bet money on a match, for example, I'm pretty sure Federer would prefer to play on grass. Djokovic would probably prefer to play on hard court, and Nadal would probably prefer to play on clay because they want to control the terrain where their advantage is best. Think about the style you see. Like obviously Nadal has got a certain style. He's fast, powerful. Djokovic doesn't have many losing point. Like didn't do many unforced errors. And then you've got Federer, who's just a finesse master. And because of that, that's why they prefer those surfaces. And if they want to win, they would prefer to control the terrain and shape the battlefield that they have. So we can control the conversations we have as well, can't we? That's a battlefield. Or we're arguing for something or negotiating. That is a battlefield. Control the battlefield of your personal life. The habits, that's a battlefield. In conflict, control the setting, control the tone, control what you talk about, because then you can win. Remember, never fight on someone else's terms. Make them play by your rules. So Sun Tzu, his wisdom is timeless. And yes, a lot of people can't see the correlation between real life and the fact that some of these concepts are for war, but actually they are interlinked. You can overlay them, and they are key strategies. Remember, stay sharp, stay strategic, and keep vanquishing.